Hello everyone, how is it going? Hope your 2024 has gone off to a good start. We're back here with my reaction to the UK's year-end list for 2023. This one will be a little different to last time. The reason why is because I found out that BBC Radio 1 actually did a countdown of the list, and I have a lot of fond memories of listening to them doing the year-end countdown. I think this was the first time they did a full 100 year-end countdown since 2018, and I thought to myself, I just didn't want to miss it. So, as far as I'm aware, I still haven't seen this full list. It should be the same list as the one that was done on the radio countdown, because by the looks of what appeared on that countdown, it was every single full week of 2023. It looked like that had been the tracking week, which I actually thought was pretty impressive because they did the countdown on a Friday, so they would have got all of last week's data onto the year-end list. I thought it took a bit of time for that to happen, but it's good. Unless if they do it by day, so if they calculate the year ends by day instead of by week. I think they do it by week, so I should have already seen this list. I'm not 100% sure though. Literally today, I was going to finish reading all my emails, but instead I couldn't help myself and went to see on the website if they'd updated the year-end list, and they had. Also, I did do predictions this year, but I only did it on Christmas Day. I'd had a rough idea, but the thing is, on BuzzChat, they're providing more and more information for what's on the year-end list each year, which I like. I think that's really cool. I like that they do that. I hope they keep doing that. But the thing is, when I did it last year, I was a lonely-ass motherfucker, and I had nothing better to do on the weekends than just spend hours of my life trying to calculate it because I thought it was fun. This time, I didn't do that. I was going to do stuff on Christmas Day, but it just rained all day here, and I'm not at home. So I thought, nothing, might as well. So I have got predictions up. Also, I'm not going to put the predictions side by side, because the thing is, with that last video, the one I did for last year, I actually did two separate screen recordings, and I've only got 50 minutes before I have to go and do something else right now. So I'm going to be flicking between the predictions Twitter page here and the list here. So sorry if that's a bit annoying. Now, if the rank down is correct, I should have got the entire top 17 correct. Let's have a look. I'm sorry for the adverts too. There's no ad blocker here. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think I got the top 10. That's all correct. It was firstly, I thought I'd say I'm gonna leave my opinions for another video, but this has got to be one of the best top 10s ever for any UK year-end list in the history of music. There is not a single bad song here, in my opinion. Every song is at least a 2. Even then, Flowers, Kill Bill, Calm Down, they were sure overplayed, but they're not bad. And there's so much great stuff here, bloody Escapism at number 3, and this 3, 4, 5 brilliant songs. Some good songs here too. Just a complete lack of bad songs. I don't fully know every single year-end top 10 in UK history. I don't know. I think they came into existence in you might be able to find some for the 60s. It's not as reliable when you go back in time, the official charts. It's not as reliable for year-end lists as Billboard. But I think at least since the year 2000, since the 90s, this is definitely the best one. But yeah, I got all of this correct. The real difficult bit though was this part here. This part here, it was 4 to 6. I actually did do a predictions all the way back in September, because I realised back then the sales gap information from the sales estimates being provided at Buzzjack, there was like a 100,000 sale difference between number 10 and number 11 at the time, which was huge. And I thought, yes, there is still like 3 months of the year left, but this will be the final year-end top 10. And it was. With that being said, I got the order at that time wrong. I had Escapism much lower down. The thing about Escapism is it had a really big, surprising second or third wind in October time, which is really uncalled for. I didn't expect that. It lasted on the charts way longer than I thought because it fell out of the top 40 relatively early compared to some of the other stuff in that top 10. So it fell out by May, and it didn't come back, but you can see it really stabilized here and it hit number 50 in October despite being on ACR, and only fell out in early December, late November, which is pretty damn impressive. So my first prediction had Escapism much lower, and then I realized, oh wait, it's now outstreaming Miracle. So yeah, I will say the number one was so obvious from a mile away. If you see my sales prediction, it's huge. Sprinter is probably... I don't think Flowers is going to make next year's year-end top 10, but I think Sprinter definitely will. Sprinter just didn't have the advantage because it was released too late in the year. So, the real difficult part was 4 to 6. Anti-Hero, Calm Down. They all just stuck around for so long on the streaming charts this year. And I think they outlasted Miracle. And I couldn't tell how much better they would do going into the end of the year. So yeah. But yeah, that's the year-end top 10. And 7, 8, 9, 10, they were fairly easy to predict. And then I think if we keep going, I think it's interesting that the two biggest the two biggest quote-unquote old songs that had huge huge revivals this year were both the 11th and 12th biggest songs. So they weren't big enough to hit the top 10. They were both 1 and 2 slots away from hitting the top 10, which I think is quite funny. I do remember seeing so many people think that Cruel Summer was going to make the top 10. I thought it did too for a little bit of time, but like I said, that sales gap was so huge, and even though it had the entire year to rack up points, it just peaked too late in the year. So in the end, it just wasn't doing enough to catch up. And if I recall, it didn't spend too much time in the... Oh, it did. I was going to say it didn't spend too much time in the top 5, but it did. To be fair, also chart sales got ridiculously low towards the end of the year. I remember there being a statistic when Too Much, they reported this in the Music Week document, for the week that Too Much by Kid Laroi and Jungkook charted, it was the worst selling number 10 song since 2009, which is pretty wild. So yeah, once again, chart sales got really shit towards the end of the year, so that could also be why. And Cruel Summer did spend a long time dodging ACR, so but it was big. It just didn't. By then, people had done so much better, on the charts. Yeah. I will say, if you've noticed this RE thing here, so the official charts, they updated their website. Funny enough, I think it was just a couple days before I did the summer ranking. It was a bit unusual. But they still come up with these errors here where, it's not a re-entry. It's not a re-entry. But I think because it came out and it charted in 2022, it's registered as one. Well, they've put it down as one. It's not a re-entry on the charts. Okay, yeah, here we go. So... a bit diffuse there. It's weird. But anyways, as you can see, so the first slight error I made was I underpredicted Last Christmas a bit. Because I did this the week before the final week sales came out, I had to predict off the top of my head what the sales would be. I just used a very contrived, convoluted kind of nonsense formula to figure out a rough sales prediction, but I mentioned this in the community tab, but these Christmas songs are just going to do bigger and bigger each year. So I think this is the biggest legacy hit, if you want to call it that. This is the biggest one to have spent more than 2 years on the chart, just because it did ridiculously well. the end of the end of the end of the year, and yeah. So that's the first error though. Getting down to the top 17 without any errors, that's good going. Yeah, Another Love, highest position ever. Same with Mr. Brightside, of course. Mr. Brightside year-end top 20 next year, definitely plausible. I think Another Love will fall off, but it will make it again. Yeah, I got all of this right. I ain't worried. I'm worried. Stuck around on streaming for a long time, especially towards the start of the year. I didn't think that would happen at first, but as you can see, it's only 4 spaces lower than it was last year. Capaldi's Forget Me. The thing is that even though he released an album this year, it only took it about 7-8 weeks before the original album started outperforming the sophomore one. So even though he got 3 number 1 singles, in the long term, he didn't do as well as he could have. I think he's... sorry to any Capaldi fans out there, but I think he peaked in 2019, and he's just never going to come back from that. 2019, 2020, that was peak time for Capaldi. He'll make enough money off Someone You Loved for the rest of his life. He's not going to have to lift a finger or anything. But this second album did not perform nearly as well as the first. In fact, I should probably have a look at the album ones. I don't know what the album one looks like. I might give it a quick look now, actually. The album year-end list, because I was reviewing albums this year. Okay, I've got the albums up. Oh my god, only 2 new entries in the top 10. Goodness me. No surprise, SOS has done that well. And yeah, the highlights, which just did well off streaming. Capaldi not even in the top 10, number 14. And yes, this is higher than the first, but that's because of sales. In terms of streams, Divinely Inspired did much better. Look at how much Taylor Swift there is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Taylor Swift in the top 13. Like a third of the top 15 is Taylor Swift. That's madness. I thought Rolling Stone's album would have done a lot better because it's been number 1 on the album chart for a while. Okay. Anyways, we're going back to the singles. Paint the Town Red, 26. Okay, so it's another slight error here. So as you can see, Someone You Love did better this year than last year, quite considerably. It halved its position. Could it be album hype? Could it be that thing at Glastonbury? Possibly, but it's now performing as well as Mr. Brightside currently. So yeah, that's unfortunate. And it almost overtook the biggest Capaldi song that didn't even come out this year, but the biggest Capaldi song from the 2020s of 2023, if that makes sense. So it almost outperformed that, which is a real shame. I'm glad Paint the Town Red did a little better than Someone You Loved. It'll definitely be on next year's year-end list. I'm quite happy with the 29 one. I'm happy that I managed to successfully predict All I Want for Christmas Is You. I got it at 29, which is pretty cool. Once again, another huge year for Bad Habits. As you can see, this is Ed Sheeran's biggest song on this list, even bigger than anything that he released this year, despite releasing 2 albums and having a number 1 single. In fact, Eyes Closed is one slot beneath. On the streaming charts, Bad Habits completely outlasted it, so that's a bit unfortunate. Got that prediction correct. George Ezra's huge second win for Green Green Grass. That's the reason why it's in the year-end top 40 again. Prada, one of the newer songs to be in the year-end top 40. As you'll see, because sales dipped off towards the end of the year, there's not, too many songs like that. Unholy. Now, if you told me in the end of last year that Unholy would be lower than it was in 2023, I'd be a bit surprised. But yeah, this song didn't last very long on the streaming charts. It fell off fairly quickly, a lot quicker than anything else here, which is pretty interesting. Not what I would have predicted at all for a September 2023 release. I thought it would have done much better this year. Ceilings, Lizzie McAlpine. This one generally does pretty well on streaming, so that's why it's been a bit more stable than some of the stuff around the start of the year, because there's other hits that I think charted higher than this, which fell beneath it at the start of the year. Made you look. Yeah, I think I got a lot of this is right. It starts to get wrong again at 39. Until I Found You, Steven Sanchez. This one, now it's reached its target audience. It does perform very well on streaming. Like, just generally, it performed well long after it stopped charting. And I was off by one. And then, unfortunately, Vance Joy's Riptide is in the year-end top 40 this year, which I underpredicted. I didn't. I was praying that it wouldn't. I do kind of like the song, but I don't want like a 2014 song to do even better than it did in 2014, in 2023, for no reason, no virality or anything. It's just a streaming fucking giant. Look at that. I mean, that's wrong. That should be 2014 and this is 2023. But yeah, it outperformed its original performance this year. Goodness me. Okay. So now we're into the more difficult predictions. Afraid to Feel. I thought that one would be top 40. At first, I didn't think this song would have, at the start of 2024, I wouldn't have thought that Afraid to Feel would have done so well going into this year. I think because LF System are like genuine one-hit wonders, and I'd never heard much hype for this song at all. I didn't think it would do this well. I thought it would make the year-end list again, but not this well, so congrats. Nah, 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 I Can't Escape This Song, It's Everywhere. Yeah. Cuff It. Everywhere. Yeah, another huge year for Fleetwood Mac, as we will get to later. I don't know who's in control of the Fleetwood Mac masters, but they've done a fantastic job just promoting their music, because goodness me. And you see, what a jump, eh? This one especially, from 91 to 44. What Was I Made For is lower than I thought. I mean, this was a number one hit. I guess being released in July gave it a bit of a disadvantage. Viva La Vida. So, I don't know if I pointed this out. I haven't said this yet. But TikTok virality works in two ways. It works in immediately boosting something back onto the charts, or it works in giving something like a longer sustained boost, which is what's happened to Viva La Vida. As far as I'm aware, it's a TikTok boost. I know that Coldplay are on tour, and this song re-entered the official charts, weekly chart from the tour. But yeah, it was on the streaming charts from the entirety of January to December, and it didn't leave once. And it was around this range as well, like the top 50. So that's why I knew it was going to do pretty well. What did I have it again? Oh, 48. Once again, though, the week count is wrong. This is only the second year-end list it's made. It didn't make the one in 2009. Thankfully, it is lower than it was in 2008, so that's a good thing. Pointless Capaldi, that one fell off pretty hard after it hit number one. Also, here's another weird thing about Capaldi I might as well share now. When he released that Netflix documentary about his life, that had a bigger boost to his new songs than the release of the album did. This one completely reset and reappeared from nowhere back into the top 20. Oh no, sorry, needs to get out to weekly performance. But yeah, it boosted it again. It just disappeared, and then it came back here, and then it eventually got overtaken by a bunch of other Capaldi songs. But yeah, the release of the Netflix documentary had a bigger boost than the album. Yeah, so Balance of Them All held on pretty well. Another Capaldi song, Wish You the Best. Heat Waves had a strange year. It had a huge resurgence. I don't know why. I think it was streaming playlist stuff. So it re-entered the top 25, and then I don't think it's going to be on next year's, though. It could be, but if it is, it's going to be very low. Dancing and Healing, Strangers. I think there's only 2 songs on this list that were released after September, which I think it might be worse than last year, but it's still better than 2020. So yeah, that's Strangers is one of them because it was released I think on the 1st of September. Everybody Wants to Rule the World is another song. It had its Stranger Things boost, and then it's just become like a really stable TikTok streaming thing. So that's why it's back. This is the second year in this it's made, because it was released in '85, right? One of the years in the '80s. I can't remember exactly from the top of my head, but it made 1 year in this back then. This is now the second. Players had a big fall off this year. I mean, it peaked really high, and then people just stopped streaming it. So I think this is one of the ones that did better than Ceilings at first, but it's now a lot lower. And I predicted it to be even lower than that. Yeah, even lower than that. Save Your Tears. You'll notice that Save Your Tears is actually higher than Blinding Lights this year. I hope Blinding Lights is the one that, going forward outperforms this. I don't want Save Your Tears to be the one song from After Hours that ends up having the bigger longevity, Anyway, Good Love, big trance song, predicted it around about there. Yeah, it's a bit lower than I thought. Dreams, look, once again, another big Fleetwood Mac revival, because I don't know. In fact, it was almost as high as it was in 2021. Like, goodness me. Us Against the World. This is the only... I'll probably make this point again when I get to the ranking. This is the only song by a new UK rapper to be on this list, quite frankly. I don't even know if we had any other hits by new UK rappers, like people who first charted this year. And unfortunately, this guy, he only charted one more song soon after this one. He's released a few others since, and they haven't charted, so I think that's it. If you haven't heard this one, it's also a pretty good indication of where UK hip-hop are headed into this year, in the sense that we're moving away from drill, and we're going back to like early to mid-noughties gangster rap revival in terms of the instrumentals. It's got a really nice, rough, vintagey instrumental. It's actually based on another song. I'll look into it and get back to you on the year-end ranking, but it's really good, this one. It's very, very catchy. His flow, his tone of voice sticks in your head. It is really good, though. Check it out. And don't check out Let Go, which I'm very thankful that Us Against the World has outperformed Fuck Let Go. So the one that I got the most incorrect, not including the one mistake I made in terms of... Because I got 99 out of 100 again. 99 of the songs I predicted made this list. I only made one error. And thankfully that error was a Christmas song, but we'll get to it later. But in terms of position, the hardest one to predict was Stick Season by Noah Kahan. And I remember at first, no one in BuzzChat really considered this one to make it, because it first charted in October, which is already pretty late in the streaming age for a song to get on the year-end list. But Stick Season by Noah Kahan originally came out in 2022. And the thing is, when it first charted, Music Week gave a report, and they actually mentioned how many sales Stick Season already had on its first week of charting. It was already quite high. It was about 170,000. So it already had 170,000 sales before it charted. And then I noticed, no one really considered it towards the end of the year, but it kept doing better and better. In fact, this will be the first number one of the year, and it's also an unusually strong number one for the first week of the year. It will be an unusually strong number one for the first week of the year. The fact it held in the top 10 at all is pretty miraculous, because, like, on the last week of the year, because even then it sold like 50,000 or something, which is quite a lot nowadays for a song that's popular in January. But even though it like continually like dipped here, well, it had dips, and that was just from Christmas music and just other like album stuff, and really it's done pretty much just got more and more popular the entire time. Had more and more chart sales the entire time. But what was difficult about it is because it was a 2022 release, it was really difficult to figure out how many of its chart sales were from 2022 as opposed to 2023. I noticed it never charted in the UK, either on the official charts or on the Spotify charts, but it did chart on the Spotify charts in Ireland and the US very shortly after it was released. So that obviously means that there were definitely people streaming it in the UK, just not enough to chart. The way I predicted it is I thought, okay, it takes roughly about 4,000 chart sales to get on the charts. I'll do the most conservative estimate and assume that every week from the week of its release, it charted 4,000 sales in the UK. And because it's released halfway through 2022, I just went with a rough 100,000. So I thought I'll subtract the sales information that was given on the week it charted by 100,000, and then use all the sales information that was given from further Music Week reports, and basically that was that. And my prediction is that it's all the way down, not even here. I predicted it at 84 with 425,000, but I thought this is the lowest score. I'll just put it in just in case, and yeah, it got way more than that. Clearly, it was 24 spots higher than I thought it would be. So good on Stick Season. Miss You, unfortunately, Who Told You didn't outperform Miss You. 17 Going Under. Yeah, this one will be in the ranking because ignore the fact it says 3 weeks. It's only the second year list it's made. Iris doing better than last year. Blinding Lights doing a bit worse than last year. Disconnect. It's quite painful how low the Chase and Status ones are in this, just because they charted for a long time and they're still doing pretty well. Like, you would not assume that this kind of run, even this late into the year, would result in like a year-end position of 66. You would think that it would be at least year-end top 50, but it's just the way it worked because sales were so low around here. And yeah, did way better than I thought it would. Both Chase and Status songs. Although I don't think Disconnect will make next year's. I think the other one has the chance to. Rock Around the Christmas Tree, a little better than last year. I think I over-predicted it. Yeah, I had it at like 59. Take Me to Church, for some reason, had a good year this year. Could it have been David Kushner? Could it have been Hozier Hype? As you can see, it's pretty good, 68, which is only a little lower than it was in 2014. Won't be on the ranking, though, because this is the third year-end list it's made. Under the Influence, Chris Brown, I was wrong. It did make the year-end list again. Thankfully, way lower. I didn't think it was going to be lower, so I'm thankful it's fallen off. I actually under-predicted it. I thought it'd be 76. Anyway, Dog Days Are Over. This one got 2 automatic resets this year. No, not automatic, sorry. It got 2 manual resets this year, which is quite funny because I think its rival was the Guardians of the Galaxy at first. I don't know what the second one was. It actually had a higher chart peak in 2023 than it did all the way back in 2010. But yeah, these are manual reset here and manual reset here. So it got gifted 2 manual resets, which is pretty unusual, but there you go. And this is the second year end list it's made, higher than the one in 2010. And yeah, Golden Hour by Jake. This one's so unusual because it only spent like 3 weeks in the top 40 this year, and then it got nerfed by ACR. So, oh no, not 3. It spent about 6, but it only peaked at like 19. But as you can see, even though it was on ACR, it held extremely well. And thankfully, because it's on the I don't know if he's signed or not, but I mean, you can see they've registered his label as Jake, so he's registered as an independent. But this song is still on the UK independent charts, so it's still done pretty well despite the fact it's not on the charts anymore. So yeah, if that's a surprise for you that this song ended up here, then that's why. I had it 63. Another good year for Arctic Monkeys streams. In fact, I think they have 3 songs on this list, including one that didn't make last year's. Fairy Tale in New York. This one did better than I thought. Greedy, the latest release to make the list. Funny enough, I over predicted it. I think I had it like 68, and down here it's 74. Did pretty well, but it's been in the top 10, I think, ever since it came out. So I guess that kind of adds up. Oh no, it fell out because of Christmas shit. But yeah, it will definitely be on next year's list. It will be a lot higher. Cold, yep. Elton John's fucking Cold Heart song ended up making the list again. It's just residual streams and also, I guess, a little boost in Glastonbury, but I don't think that would have caused it to have been much higher. I think if the Glastonbury thing didn't happen, it probably still would have made the list, albeit much lower. But yeah, higher than Cupid, which was a top 10 hit. I remember because I started tracking the just the streaming charts week on week around I think it was around August time, and the strange thing about Cupid is that it fell extremely hard, just randomly, completely randomly. It just completely disappeared from the streaming charts after a week or two. I was like, oh, that's weird. It fell from 50 something to 90 something on a very normal week. It was a bit odd. But to me, it's sad that this is the only K-pop song to be on the list. I'll get back to you more when I get to the ranking, but it was one of my least favorite by far. Such a shame. Yeah, Perfect. You know, there are quite a lot of songs that have been on the year-end list since the year of the release, which aren't there anymore. So Shallow, it's not on the list. Baby Shark, it's not on the list. Shotgun, it's not on the list. But you still got these ones that just keep hanging around. And I think this is the lowest position. Is this the lowest position it's ever been? Yeah. So maybe we could finally say goodbye to Perfect next year. That would be great. Shape of You, also not on the list. Location by Dave, not on the list. Didn't have nearly as good of a year as previous years, as far as I'm aware. But yeah. Wonderwall by Oasis, not its highest. Fuck You Mean by Gunna. This one took so long to make the year-to-date list. I thought it was going to make the year-to-date list about a month earlier than it did. Because, once again, this is another, mid-year release, which just did much better than its year-end position would tell you. I guess it never peaked that high, peaked to number 7, so I guess that could explain. And then there's Badadan. This is the one that might make next year's list. Pretty strange run for this. Peaked a lot later, 2.5 months later after it first charted, and I think that was just because of ACR stuff knocking all this stuff down. And it's kept fairly stable since. Yeah. Another Coldplay song, 505. 505 didn't actually last that long on the streaming charts this year. It's still on Spotify. It's still on the Spotify Top 100. But yeah, I remember being surprised that this one, I guess because it was doing so well at the start of the year. I doubt it even charted this year. Let me check. Oh, it did. Okay, it charted for 2 weeks. Okay, around the summer. Okay. Can I say, has anyone watching this ever heard Go by Cat Burns in the Wild, ever? I think I heard it on the radio once, last year, and yet it's apparently one of the biggest songs of the decade. I don't know how. I've never heard this song playing at any cards. I never heard it played on any, in any supermarkets. I don't have, I've recently got TikTok, so... But either way, the fact this was the 4th biggest hit of last year and it's managed to hang on onto this year just kind of baffles me. I've no experience with this song at all. And Cat Burns, this seems to be her hit. She had a couple songs chart this year, but they didn't really do too well. I don't think any of them got higher than actually no, she had that one collab with Ardy that hit number 35. But other than that, the success of this song just baffles me. The fact it will be one of the biggest songs of the decade, and yet I've never heard this song. My parents have never heard this song. It's just wild. But anyway, Tattoo by Loreen. This one did a little better than you might have expected from its chart run, funnily enough, considering how much stuff fell off. That looks kind of decent, but it because it was released, I think, in February time, it means that the song managed to rack up quite a few chart sales before it already charted. And I think that gave it a bit of an advantage because I wasn't like, where did I predict it? I predicted it lower. I thought it would make it because I had it at 94, but a full 10 spots higher is a bit surprising. Got to say, fantastic to see a Eurovision song on the list that isn't by an English act. That's I can't remember the last time that happened. That's pretty interesting. Sweater weather. Here is the Arctic Monkeys song that is new to the list. Once again, ignore this stupid RE crap. It's new to the list. This is the first time it's made the list. 86. Yeah. Just one that's done consistently very well on streaming. Someone Like You. I think this one is a re-entry, isn't it? Yeah. Anyone know why? Why this song? Is it just, old heads moving to streaming? Got no clue. But I did predict this one, albeit much lower. I had it 98. Red Flags, Mimi Webb. This one was in the year-to-date top 40 until the middle of the year, and then it just bombed. Like, this is definitely one. I mentioned last year that songs that do well at the start of the year have less of an advantage than they did back in the late 2010s for the streaming age. But I guess this one is like it did hold on, I guess. I guess a little better than I thought. But yeah, it's one of those songs that does very well for months and then just very badly for the rest of its lifespan. Little Things. So what's unfortunate about Little Things is that even though the original is one of the best charting songs of the entire year, there's a version out there that mashes it up with She's Homeless by Crystal Waters. That's the one that did way better. Which is a shame, because it's more nostalgia baiting wank. It's fine. It's a fine mashup, but the best part of Little Things is the instrumental, and they just got rid of that for an instrumental that we've all heard a fuckload of times. Very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. But, this is the first time Georgia Smith has ever made a year-end list in the UK. Be Honest was very close in 2019, but it didn't make it. So that's pretty nice. Chemical, Post Malone. For a while, I did get confused when people were saying that Post Malone's just not doing as well now as he was even last year, when last year was a flop. Well, actually, I don't think anyone said that, but I thought this was a bit of a revival for Post Malone this year, but I realised that's just because this song did really well in the UK. I think globally, though, it might have done worse than I Like You, a happier song. If you do look at Post Malone's charting information, I Like You, 19, 14 weeks. Chemical, 11, 22 weeks. Much better. But yeah, you look at the albums, and 12 Carat Toothache lasted longer than Austin did. Okay, towards the end now. Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac. This one was so odd. And once again, I don't know who's marketing, and I assume there's marketing going on, but I don't know who's holding the Fleetwood Mac masters, but they're bloody raking in the shit. Because what's funny is that this one first charted on the UK streaming chart in September time. But when it did, it also, even though it charted really low, and even though it's on ACR because it's an old song, it somehow charted higher than it did on the singles chart, even though you wouldn't have it. Oh no, it didn't chart higher, but the fact it charted on the singles chart when for its streaming chart week it was so low was quite confusing. And I think the reason why is there's this theory I've seen knocking around when it comes to because I don't know if they do it the same in the US on Billboard. I think they do. But if a song is being streamed by people who are paying premium, it has a six times the effect. That it gets 6 times the amount of points or something like that. Yeah, it was 97 on the streaming chart for that week, and yet it was 98 on the weekly chart, which doesn't make any sense. This was on ACR, it wasn't charting. 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 So the ratio of paid to advert funded streams for this particular song is huge, and it's for all the Fleetwood Mac songs. I think it was for Everywhere as well. Very unusual, but it will probably be on next year's list. And ignore this bullshit. This is the first year-end list it's ever made in the UK, because as you'll see, it's only wrong one. It only ever peaked at 38 and only charted for 4 weeks in the 70s. I guess just because Fleetwood Mac are they're an albums act, so they would have done so much better on the albums tracks. Everyone just bought the album, they didn't buy the song. Okay, Snooze Scissor, interesting chart run for this one. This isn't the only song like this in the bottom 10, because as you can see, its performance is pretty mediocre by the looks of it. It initially only peaked at 36, but it stuck around for a long time. It did make the year-to-date list somewhere around here, and then it fell off, and then it had this huge revival, and then it came back on to the year-end list. So I think that kind of thing will be a bit more common going into the year, but essentially this was nowhere near the smash it was on the US charts. And but due to just sticking around, always doing kind of well on streaming, and then having a bit of a boost at the end of the year to give it just that edge, that's why it's done so well. That's why it's done even better than Baby Don't Hurt Me, which was a top. It's hit number 15 or something. No, didn't number 15, but it was in the top 20 for a good while. Okay, so here we have the one song that I didn't think would make it. And I'm still kind of surprised that it made it. Based on the information, though, I could tell that it wasn't going to be... it was still in the year-to-date list the entire time. But the fact it lasted as long as it did just stumped me. And because of that, I thought it wouldn't have had much of a chance. But, yeah, Last by Burna Boy ended up outperforming any of the Burna Boy releases this year. And I don't get it, because it was on the year-to-date top 40 in February, and then it fell off. And as you can see by its chart run, it wasn't great, and it wasn't on the streaming charts for any of the back half of the year. I guess here, what I've got up here is the official hip-hop and R&B singles chart, and it did stick around on there until October, but even then, it still kind of wowed me. How did this make the list, but Mockingbird by Eminem didn't? Because that one also stuck around on the hip-hop and R&B singles chart for a while. Just kind of baffling. Anyway, the song that I thought would make it instead, which didn't, was that Michael Bublé Christmas song. It's beginning to look Christmas cover. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. So, just for my own personal taste of which is better, I would gladly take Last for second year, even though it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it was very confusing to see it this high. Yeah, Starboy's another one that's a bit weird. Yes, this is Starboy by The Weeknd. This is another one. I think it performed kind of similar. It was on the hip hop and R&B charts for a while, but it wasn't on the streaming charts for that long, despite doing very well on Spotify this year. I doubt this one even charted, but that could just be because could that have just been for the Free Song Paradise? As you can tell, there's a lot of Weeknd songs on here. I think there's about 5. Oh, it did chart for a little bit. But yeah, either way, this was another one that, I did predict this one would make it, at number 100. So it was another one that I saw was on the year-to-date updates all the time. But I was just like, how is this here? Summertime Sadness by Lana Del Rey. This was a really, good year for Lana Del Rey. I think Born to Die did better, the best it's ever done since the year it came out. So many of the songs on the Spotify charts, even had a song from that album chart, had her first top 10 hit since, I think, Video Games this year with Say Yes to Heaven. But the song of hers that did the best, and I'm thankful they've actually credited the correct version for fucking once, was her biggest performing song. Unlike last time, though, it's definitely the original that was performing better, and it was just from residual streams. I don't think this one did it chart in 2023. It got granted a reset here. It charted for 1 week, but yeah, it was doing pretty well on the streaming charts throughout the year, so it doesn't surprise me. Oh, there we go. Here's the final four. So I'm still standing by Elton John, once again, not 3 weeks old. I was quite confused that this one made it too, because it wasn't on the streaming charts for most of the year. It does usually do pretty well on streaming. Also, Summer of '69, Bryan Adams, first year endless ever made, another streaming giant. In fact, I think if you, based on certification data, even though this song, I don't think it even hit the top 40, the weekly top 40 ever. Once again, the charts, never hit the weekly top 40, but just through cultural popularity or whatever, it's now based, if you combine streaming and sales data, it has outperformed Everything I Do For You, which is quite insane. And then you've got Karma. This is the other song I was talking about when it came to Snooze, of a song that never really peaked that high. Like, this is a pretty mediocre looking run, isn't it? You would not think a song like that had this chart run starting in 2023 and then ending here, and it being a newish song. You would not think a song with a chart run like this would make the bloody year in this. That only spent 2 weeks in the top 20. But this is another case, kind of like Snooze, of a song that had been out before this year. And you have got to factor in that this is Taylor Swift, and the 3-song per artist rule means that that's why the song fell out and came back. But either way, it was another song that I remember being quite surprised it hit the year-to-date list earlier than it did, and being surprised at how well it held on at the bottom of the streaming charts. So yeah, that's how it made it. And it is the original, by the way, because the remix gave it a boost, but it was only the most popular version for a week or two. And then Sex on Fire, which makes no sense. This was on the streaming chart for like a week, I think. I think it was the first week it had ever been. No, sorry, that's in 2013. Yeah, it didn't chart at all this year. But it's back. This is the third year list it's made, so I don't have to talk about it. Fuck yes, can't stand this song. Anyway, 99 out of 100. I will get back to you on the year-end list, because I'm either going to get it out like in February, or I'll get it out much later, sometime in the future. But the quality of the video will depend on what you guys want. I genuinely don't mind. But if I do, I don't know like how likely it is that I will get it out by February, just because I'm trying to like focus a bit more on improving my own personal life and interactions with people in person. But yeah, I will say, if I can add this final bit of commentary, this was, at least based on the sales estimates I had, I think this was the highest cutoff for the UK year-end list since 2019. So the cutoff for 2020 was 400,000 chart sales. Then it dipped pretty low to about 370, 360. And last year it was about 380. This year is about 410, at least based on my own predictions. And it's funny because if you do compare, the reason why is I think this is due to, I think the pandemic has still had such a huge impact on the charts moving forward, just in the sense that, like if you go back to that chart in 2020, like I remember reviewing that, ranking that chart, and being really surprised at how many songs there were on that year-end list. But as you like, how many old songs were on that year-end list? Of course, there's only 100 songs on the list. Because as you can see, like, you're not stupid. You can tell that there's so much old shit on this year-end list. And I think now, like back then, the charts were healthier. And 2020, I think they were the most healthy at the very start of the year, like some of the most healthy they've ever been. In terms of chart sales. But like, look, it's so many more new entries here. It's so much more refreshing. I'm glad I'm not just ranking the year-end lists anymore. I'm ranking basic certification data. But also a lot of these crossovers are just songs from the previous year that managed to hold up, as you would probably expect in the streaming age. Now, like, it's just full of old shit that's getting revived because, well, some of it is TikTok virality and just, I don't know, the way we the way young people consume music nowadays more. But most of it is just like boomers and Gen Xers moving to streaming services. And of course, they don't care. They don't need to care about new music. They want to listen to the music that they grew up on and has stood the test of time. And it is a little depressing. And I think what happened is that, so before the pandemic, songs would chart pretty well. Then they would stick around on streaming services and then fall off, I don't want to say naturally, because at the time it was naturally, but, a song would be released, do well, and then fade off. Nowadays, songs do well for much shorter periods of time and then fall off way harder, whilst at the same time, the baseline streaming level for older stuff is just getting higher and higher each year. And I don't see this stopping. So at first, I used to kind of agree with the end of year singles chart rules. This year was the one that changed it for me, because I was originally thinking what they should do is make a year-end top 200 as well, because you could probably suss out like 100 songs on that list that were only big this year and last year, like hits this year and last year, instead of stuff that's always just done very well. But now, like, I'm looking at this list, I think there's almost 50 songs, I think. I did do I think I posted a calculation on a Discord server. I think there's only like 46 to 48 songs that are new to this year-end list. So not even songs that came out this year that made the year-end list. Songs that are new to the year-end list. Only about like 46 or so. And I think more than a quarter maybe, of songs on this list are tracks that have made more than 2 in the past. Like, and also when I say made for the first time, that includes Go Your Own Way and Summer of '69, which have also made it for the first time. And of course, Sure Thing, Cruel Summer, all the old shit that got revived this year. So yeah, I'm now in the camp. I think they should make 2 year-end lists from now on. They should make one like this where it is the actual, like, biggest songs on chart sales. Because yes, it doesn't matter what you think, but it's an objective fact that these are the biggest songs of the year based on the official charts formula that has existed ever since, 2014, 2015. But at the same time, I think they should make a separate one which has like both newer music and they have like songs that have been revived and like, hit like the top 40 in streaming for the first time ever. Because if they can make a rule as contrived as ACR, they should be able to do the same thing for this, like make a list where it's like the most popular songs of this year and last year and stuff that was revived this year and last year. So like you would have Cruel Summer and you'd have Sure Thing on that list, but you wouldn't have Last Christmas or Mr. Brightside, maybe Another Love, but just like all the old shit. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on the list. I hope to see you guys soon. Hope you have a good 2024.